evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eugene Uchieng, and this is The Insight. I'm your host this evening. And of course, we delve into the current affairs and political show because it begins tonight. And tonight, we delve into the state of the nation, where we get to look at and examine pressing issues that shape our present and, of course, the future. Our goal tonight is to navigate through the intricacies of our nation's challenges and opportunities, and to engage in meaningful discussions with active citizens, thought leaders, to bring to you issues that are shaping our country's destiny through igniting conversations that matter. That we're doing tonight here, of course, through the state of the nation. And of course, this conversations begins tonight. And of course, we don't do this alone. We do this through the lenses of different analysts. I have with me three thought leaders, of course, who are with me tonight. And of course, my first guest is PDG Masu Anthony, who is the General Secretary for BPK, Boda Boda Party of Kenya, is joining me for this conversation. We also have with us Odiwuor Agre, who is the student leader, joining us for this conversation on the state of the nation. We also have George Ndawa. George Ndawa is an active citizen and an advocate of good governance, also joining us for this conversation on the state of the nation. Welcome, gentlemen. Once again, George Ndawa, it's been quite long. We have not met you've not been on the show for some time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, it's been quite a while, and I really appreciate the invite for today.
Okay. Yes, I want us to start this conversation looking into the economy and to ask you generally, what and how do you assess the economic landscape of Kenya as it stands?
I want to look at Kenya from way back and see where we are right now. And if I can weigh it back a little bit from the time of Moi, then to Kibaki, then Uhuru, and right now, I can tell you that I've heard people talking about young nations and nations that have been there through their independence for long. But one different thing that I see is how they progress from one place to another, especially economically, because, you know, economy is what makes a people who they are, and it is what makes even the culture of a society become sober. So economy of Kenya, as we look at it right now, is actually at the brink. It's so wanting that any person who is sane would look at it again and never underrate or underestimate the situation on the ground. What people are seeing, what people are talking about mostly is in the things that happen in the cities, but nobody visits the villages to tell us or to talk about what happens in the village. If the pictures, the cameras that we have in our media houses would be picking those from the villages, then we would be all in unison that our economy is actually going really bad. It's at the worst if we consider from the beginning of our independence to date. Yeah.
Agree. Maybe your assessment of the economic landscape generally, how it is now, and if you can tell us how you think it affects even the average citizen or even students.
Yeah, thank you very much, Coach. Yeah, I think if I start by reflecting back to Kibaki Sera, since that's the era that I know as well, from Kibaki Sera to Ruiz era to right now we are in Hustlers Nation, the Hustlers era.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that our economy at the moment is in a bleeding situation. Yeah, if I compare this to the previous regimes, and you can see very well that every citizen, every local mwananchi is now crying about the economy. The cost of living is unbearable for the normal mwananchi, and I think this is something that is really affecting each and every one of us. So the economy is not good. It's really bleeding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mas.
Eugene, thank you very much once again. As a city, I'm sad in a number of ways. First of all, I'm sad because my team, the government, the mighty Gor Mahia Kogalo, was just whipped ruthlessly in a match at Kasarani. I might be smiling, but my heart is bleeding from the inside. Secondly, I'm sad because this afternoon I had a conversation with a woman in the streets, and she approached me randomly asking for lunch. In any sane country, it should not happen. In any country that speaks of billions and trillions of shillings, it should not happen. It must not happen. Until when will we recognize the actual signs that the government of the day is incapable and it is time they ship out? If we are sane in any way, let us recall this government. We have the power of recall as citizens, and we should start vouching for it as early as now. Let us recall our leaders. Let them face the populace once again. Let them convince us, according to the track record and the templates that they have laid before us for working. They show there is nothing being cooked for us, and we are going to stay hungry as we have had, and as a result of that, we need a crop of other leaders. Let Wananchi exercise the power of recall. That is the state of the nation.
Okay, well, in as much as we talk about the economic hardships in the country that the country is actually facing, but we are continuously being reminded of the global economy, generally how it affects now the country's economy. And when we talk about the global economy, we talk about the Russia-Ukraine wars and of course the COVID-19 effects to our economy. When Kenyans cry about the economy or the state of the economy, are they cognizant of the fact that there's a Russia-Ukraine war and there's the COVID-19 effects? Do they appreciate these? What do you think? Let me start with that.
In as much as there are those things that are happening which generally affect economies around the world, as a country, we also need to have our measures. We don't have to wait until something happens which affects the whole world. Then we place our cries with other countries. We are an agricultural economy. If you look at Kenya in a good way, and most of our lands can do well without any global input. So I would really appreciate if, like the current government, can think more of our agriculture, our homegrown, than talking about imports and imports and imports.
Okay. What do you think about when you talk about the global economy affecting even the Kenyan economy? Because we can't just say that Kenyan economy operates independently. It operates under many other issues. Yes. So what do you think from where you sit?
Yeah, I think in as much as the global economy affects our country's economy, then we should just stop the blame game. It's now almost 3 years since the COVID-19, and it's so saddening that we are still putting the blame game on things like COVID-19, even the Russia war. Yeah, it's not right to blame the global economy on the Kenyan situation right now. If ACS that was just vetted some few days ago declared that her net worth was around 50 million, and recently the CS is now buying a house at 120 million, then we still want to blame, where did they get this money from? So I think we should take it as a personal responsibility as a country, and then we should stop blaming the global organizations and the various events that are taking place globally. Yeah, so this is something that we need to look at, and it's not right to put the blame game. Yeah, what are we doing as a country despite all that's happening? Those are things that are there to stay. Yeah, today, the other day it was COVID-19, day after it's Ukraine war. After that, you don't know what will happen next. But if you continue putting the blame on certain of things, then where will you go as a country? Where are you heading to as a country? So I think we should just...
but I think this blame is not just with this regime alone. The previous regime, when asked why are they not performing as expected, they talked about the global economy, the effects of COVID-19, the effects of Russia-Ukraine war. So it means that this is an issue that is actually endangering our economy.
But growth. Just before the 2022 elections, when the campaigns were going on, the current regime accused the former president not to put the blame game on the Ukraine war. They said that the Ukraine war had nothing to do with the Kenyan economy, and the same people are now blaming that. So it shows that these people lacked plans on how to transform the country, and this is evidently seen. Yeah, so it's not right to put the blame game. And yeah, you know, during the former President Uhru's regime, yeah, the COVID had stricken the country. It was at the moment. That's something that already is the past right now, and you should not continue living in the past. Yeah.
Okay, quite interesting. Masu, talking about the current political developments in the country, which ones? Okay, because quite a number of them. When we talk about even finance bill, even coming to life as a budget reading, they follow some political processes, and there are politics around it. When you even see the president now getting his people, whipping his people to vote for the finance bill, the budget, the people, the common mwananchi, some of them, actually according to a daily newspaper, almost 97% of Kenyans were against the finance bill, yet it was passed. These are political developments that are happening. What do you think of?
Eugene, these leaders hold us in contempt. These leaders think that because those few slots that are reserved can be given to them, then the rest who did not get them are fools. That those who woke up to simply vote and wait for maendeleo, as they call it, are simply fools. If, as you say, that 97% of Kenyans are against the finance bill, which is actually the truth, because we feel cheated. We feel cheated right from the word go. If Mr. President came and told us, sisi watu wa boda boda, mimi ni mtu wa boda boda nimekaa, sisi watu wa boda boda tutaunda serikali, eti hii serikali ni ya mama mboga, hii serikali ni ya mtu ya pikipiki, hii serikali ni ya mtu ya chini. And then, when it was eventually formed, the president actually lost structure of the entire boda boda and mama mboga conundrum and brought in a new clique, which consists of people like Musalia Mudavadi, who have been in government since KANU days. These are now Mama Mboga. And people like Moses Kuria, whose feet were burned during... I'm trying to get off topic because I'm trying to sound as stupid as possible. And my argument in this case is this. If hunger will not be experienced at State House, the president will not know that Kenyans are against this thing and Kenyans are suffering.
Do you want to say?
Let me just finish this point, then you ask me that question. So, if Kenyans are so hungry, I want to urge any Kenyan who is out there that it is high time, it is not going to take so long before we make a declaration that all citizens should always go and have supper at State House and go back and sleep in their homes. Why? Because State House is not so spacious, but we assume there is food there. So unless the president is also sleeping hungry, it means there's excess food for everyone else. We can always go there. So the president is not listening to us because there's too much food at State House. There is money to steal, but there is none to help wananchi. There's no money to subsidize fuel, ya mtu ya boda boda, but there is money to be eaten inside NHIF. There is money to increase.
Okay. We're going to look into those other issues. But
yes,
my question is, when the president talked about the country forming a government of Mama Mboga, of mtu wa boda boda, did he really mean that he wanted that mtu wa boda boda to be the cabinet secretary, to be are they at a capacity to work as cabinet secretaries? Are they at a capacity to serve Kenyans in this high?
Because what is the assumption? The assumption is that I became mtu wa boda boda because I did not go to school. Well, I'm not saying that all of us can be cabinet secretaries, but do we even have a state department for boda boda that deals with their issues? Do we even have that forum where they can come in and discuss the pain that they feel at the pump? Do we have something that discusses the cost of production for farmers, such that Mama Mboga can, tame their profit margins to be manageable for their families that they have to feed with this income? We don't have that. The structure does not reflect. The government was to be ours, watu wa boda boda na watu wa pikipiki, Mama Mboga, because the structure that was to be put by the UDA government was to enable us to thrive within it. That is the meaning of the government being ours. It has not happened, so the government is not ours. So if the president is going to claim ownership of any social group within the country right now, he should claim the clique of individuals that he put in categoric government positions to help him eat.
Okay, there's a question, a critical one, that is has always been about the loyalty, or how people, generally the people who serve in the government, are appointed, and it has been claimed that most of them are coming from certain tribes, and actually, those who serve in the government or in the regime in every reign are those people who actually helped, or the loyalists generally of the president or the deputy president, or those people who campaigned for the particular presidential candidate. And there has been a question of meritocracy, and also the question of loyalty. And the question is, which is more important? Is it meritocracy? Is it loyalty? Which one is more important? Because even, and there's been claimed several times, even from the UDA, that we cannot employ those people who do not believe in our manifestos. So they can't just employ any person who does not necessarily believe in the manifestos or in the bottom-up economic model. Yes.
You see, Eugene, there are things that when we go to governance, we tend to think that professionally it should be done. Mm-hmm. It needs to be done. Mm-hmm. But you see, our structure of politics is very funny, mm-hmm. because we are not like other countries where a given party can be everywhere in the country. You realize that our parties dominate regions. Mm-hmm. So if your region doesn't believe in me and in my governance, and then I choose you to become my minister, mm-hmm. don't you think you can sabotage and fail me? Mm-hmm. And you campaigned against me, and you didn't like me, and you know, as we usually say that you have seen many people talk even on media platforms, that whenever anything happens, whether when it comes from a given region, and it's only one person who does something wrong that people are seeing, they kind of link that with their political leader and say, look at how these politicians, look at how their politics run. Now this one is influenced by such and such a person who is leading them in politics. So their ideology is, you know, so such kind of belief in our system makes it very hard for any ruling party or government to appoint people just because we are all Kenyans. Okay. Because after all, everyone wants to win, to lead well and leave a record that is worth of, like, I promised, I delivered, mm-hmm. you know.
Okay, agree. Let me just ask you this, because there's been discussion, actually, as you talk about loyalty or even meritocracy, and a conversation of certain communities being or having the highest employees in government. Does it mean that these communities are actually benefiting more when you talk about them having most people in government? Does it mean that life is much easier for those people coming from those communities, or is this a fallacy?
Yeah, thank you very much, and it's quite peculiar that I have a divided opinion when it comes to this issue of loyalty in politics and various communities having larger shares, because I remember the DP said that government is like a company with people, and people have shares in the company. So first thing that we need to accept is that in politics, loyalty is rewarded in installments, while disloyalty is punished instantly. Yeah, and one of the ways of rewarding your loyalist is through giving them positions in the government. You will, this one to take and so, this one takes and so. Yeah, so I think it's kind of abnormal or ironical for the president to appoint those who never wanted him to take that seat. It's quite ironical for him to appoint those people to his government, because these people never wanted me there. So now they don't want me there, I also don't want people there. Yeah, but I think there is a solution to this issue of so many cabinet secretaries, also in positions being given to a certain tribe. Yeah, and it's very clear. You know, our constitution was man-made. Yeah, and therefore it can be amended. If we want to solve this issue once for all, so as to deal with such kind of petty grievances, yeah, how many seats do we need? Not less than 14, not more than, I think 20, yeah, not more than 22. How many regions do you have in the country? There are around 8. Yeah, so we can amend our constitution so that we can have at least every 3 cabinet secretary from every region. I think this will help in solving this issue of, I don't know, this region has many CS, this one doesn't have any, this one have one. Yeah, so that Nyanza can produce 3. Out of these 3, we have in Nyanza we have the Gusi people, we have the Kisi, we have the Luos. If Kisi produce 1 and the Luos produce 2, produce 1, then Kure produce 1. This will be fairness. There will be fairness in the government. So I think this can really help. Yeah, and if the president can listen to this, we can amend our constitution, so that every region can produce at least 3 CS. Yeah. Then on the issue of whether these regions that voted for the president whether life is also tougher for them, I think if the price of unga is 300 in my place, then it's 300 everywhere, and therefore everyone is suffering. And this issue of mtu wetu is in power, mtu wetu, I think this is just a fallacy. Yeah, it's the person enjoying, not you. Yeah, I think everyone is suffering. Yeah, it's not only those who voted for maybe opposition or those who voted for Endo. I think everyone is suffering. Yeah.
Let's talk about another issue actually, but close to what he's talked about amending constitution, because it says that there are certain issues or grievances that Kenyans do have, and he calls them petty grievances. First of all, do you believe that in having a courier as a CS, or maybe having a Luo as a maybe head of a state department, does it help the Luo or the community in which they come from? And another question altogether is about the amendment of the constitution generally. Do you think that it is easy to amend our constitution to make it maybe like what he said, around three cabinet secretaries from each region, bearing that we have some communities which are larger in terms of population and therefore many voters?
Well, that's a philosophical question, Eugene. It needs a deep and proper understanding of social dynamics within the country to properly answer. Because we have always been using the premise of meritocracy to gauge leadership and to make appointments, with the defense that even if I find 20 Luos and the Luos are proper, they are learned, they understand this topic, then they can be cabinet secretaries. I don't think that is how it should be working, okay? We must understand our social dynamics. We must use the constitution to address our challenges. If you're asking me whether we can block our behinds to stop diarrhea, the answer is yes, in this case. Because like I said, the constitution is man-made. If we can amend clauses to address our individual issues, you cannot convince me that if you found one competent Kikuyu to lead a certain parastatal, then you cannot find another competent courier to do the same. That you cannot find another competent Kisi, another competent Ogiek to do the same. So when I don't advocate for equality, in this case, the constitution was not made to be equal. It was made to be equitable. So let's distribute the resources that we have equitably. Yes, you have so many people concentrated population-wise in a particular area, okay? But does it deny the same rights to another sect of people despite being a smaller group of people from enjoying these rights? I usually give the example of roads in Nyanza. I grew up in Nyanza when Moi had ensured that nothing in the type of roads was constructed in that area. So if you are a farmer in Nyanza, you are to farm only the things you can consume, not what you can sell, because it will go bad before you reach the market. And that is how it was a strategic plan to trim down the economic progress of this group of people. And if you went to other areas in the country, in fact, I use the example of Nyeri all the time, that when Kibaki was president, Nyeri had a better road network than most cities in this country, than Kisumu, Mombasa, and even Nairobi. Nyeri was networked to the last part. Uko remote mashinani kabisa. Why? Because power has something in it. The ability to take a pen and with the stroke of a pen, a certain amount of resources goes to a certain area is very important. So if I take people from Kiambu, these 2 pens that will be stroked, all the money will go to Kiambu. That is why I have to take another person from Dewa and another person from Sabaot and another one from Lamu, so that with the 3 strokes of the pen, resources zimetambaa kila kona nchi.
Okay. And it's quite interesting. He's talking about infrastructure, even as we are talking about these issues. Now we're talking about constitution and the progress. But I want us to delve into the issue of infrastructure. We understand and know that infrastructure is very important and very critical in the economic growth of Kenya. Now, from where you sit generally, how do you assess the state of our infrastructure? We also know that the former president, Mwai Kibaki, actually his manifesto, rather what he does, he did mostly, was to build an infrastructure. And now we're talking about President Uhuru. He continued with the same and actually built better infrastructures. How do you assess the state of infrastructure? Do you think that, as some people have thought, that we have spent so much money on infrastructure?
You know, for a country to grow, even if we talk about development, there has to be a road network, and not just imaginary road networks, but roads that are worthy driving on. I've toured this country really wide, and I've gone to places where you get there and you would imagine that you are not even in your own country, because we don't have roads there. So listen, any wise government that wants to tax the citizens opens the road networks and makes businesses easier for the citizens, so that they can be very busy making money. As their businesses or their jobs grow, the collection of taxes becomes easy. They won't even feel it. I've even had people talk on TV and we say Kenya is the least taxed country compared to, and they even compare us, you know, this is hypocrisy. They even compare us with countries like in Europe and in America. And that is really wrong, because that context can't work. If you look at a person who is taxed even 40% in America, what he remains with is good enough for him to buy every and anything that he needs and can still save. Here we are working from we are working from the hand to mouth, and still the taxation, we can talk about it as if it's just a joke. But then what I wanted to say is that, you see, in a country, the reason why there is even a contention on regional balancing on CS and or the appointments of ministers, it's because of the intention of the sitting government. You see, there is no goodwill of developing the country. There is only a goodwill of not even developing their regions, because if you look at it really well, I don't even know, maybe as Masu says, sometimes we are really big fools, because after voting people, they come back with big cars, and the next home to his home, the neighboring home, they don't even have a bicycle. So if you tell me that appointing a CS or appointing somebody to work in the government from my region can make my region be developed, I don't think it's true. It's real. But you see, the reason why this is coming is that some communities have been profiled to an extent that if you don't have one of their own up there, then they feel so marginalized. And then sometimes you find that somebody they can pull one to enrich, so that this person doesn't even speak your language. Not really the language like the mother tongue, but he doesn't speak to your interests, people from his region. But because he has your name and speaks your language, then the government wants to make people see a picture that one from your place has been. It started way back from Kenyatta's day.
Okay. Thank you so much. We are taking a very quick short break, but we'll be right back. Please stay put. Our conversation, you can always converse with us at 21144. That is our SMS line. And of course, at Eugene Ochieng, Kwach, and at GBS TV Africa.